the smoke and fire and damage from bushfires raging in the Greater Sydney region is to see whether it's safe for residents to return home. It's believed dozens of properties have been lost, but exact numbers have not yet been determined. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian says there's not much left of Balmoral, southwest of Sydney, which has been ravaged by the Green Wattle Creek fire. Cooler temperatures yesterday allowed firefighters to spend the day strengthening containment lines. An inferno in the Blue Mountains flared up overnight to an emergency level but has since been downgraded to a watch and act. There are currently more than 90 fires burning across the state. The Prime Minister has apologised to Australians for taking an overseas family holiday as fires raged across the country. He met bushfire victims in Sydney's southwest after conceding, in hindsight, he would have made a different decision.
The Prime Minister, fresh from his flight back home, began the day with a briefing on the bushfire crisis gripping New South Wales. Then it was on to an evacuation centre in Picton, before a second briefing on the Green Wattle Creek blaze burning southwest of Sydney. He's acknowledged his Hawaiian holiday caused anxiety among Australians, but he says he was just trying to keep a promise he made to his two daughters. He's accepted criticism for taking the trip, saying he would have made a different decision in hindsight, but now hopes to leave the saga behind him.
It's time to be kind to each other. This is not a time for division. It's not a time for argument. It's not a time for partisanship. It's not a time for point scoring. It's a time to support people who have a very important job to do.
There was plenty of backlash after the Prime Minister failed to tell the public he was going on holidays or tell them who would be leading the country through the bushfire crisis in his absence.
On each time I've taken private family leave as Prime Minister, I've followed exactly the same process. There was no change. On my earlier leaves, no statement was issued. I took private family leave and no objections were raised by the press on those occasions, but it's certainly something we will rectify for next time.
Scott Morrison was one of the loudest critics of Victoria's Police Chief Christine Nixon when it was revealed she had left work during the 2009 Black Saturday bushfires to get dinner, the PM saying the circumstances are different.
I'm not the operational leader of an emergency service or police force. I'm the Prime Minister. And as Prime Minister, I was kept regularly and sought to be kept regularly updated on the events.
Scott Morrison is facing ongoing questions about climate change and its link to the bushfire crisis.
We must take action on climate change. We are taking action on climate change. At the last election, I said we would. I said we would meet and beat our Kyoto targets. I said we would meet our Paris commitments in a canter. That's what I promised Australians when we went to the last election, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
In the Blue Mountains, an emergency situation unfolded on Sunday afternoon. The Gross Valley fire, which has spread from that mega blaze at Gospers Mountain, burnt dangerously close to homes, forcing residents in Blackheath to flee.
And while we were trying to put out a spot fire, that's when a wall of flame that I've never seen anything. It was like it was worse than a movie.
This fire has already burnt through more than 12,000 hectares, and despite the cooler conditions, the threat is far from over.
As we head into what is regarded as some of our most precious family time of the year, as we head into the Christmas and New Year break, there are going to be thousands of people not home for Christmas this year because they're going to be out there either concerned because they're directly impacted by these fires as community members, or they're going to be leaving a Christmas lunch or a Christmas dinner or a Christmas function because they want to do their part.
On Saturday, New South Wales faced its worst fire threat to date as catastrophic conditions hit the state. There are fears between 10 and 20 properties have been lost in the Hawkesbury and Blue Mountains region so far. Some good news in the midst of the emergency, however. A man reported missing in Dargan after a fire tore through his home has been found safe and well by police. Stella Todorovic, Sky News, Sydney.
And the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has defended his government's response to the bushfire crisis while emphasising the need for responsible action on climate change. In an op-ed in the Daily Telegraph, Mr Morrison praised the operation around the country and paid tribute to firefighters Jeff Keaton and Andrew O'Dwyer, who died battling the blazes. He insists all Australian governments, the Defence Force and the Commonwealth are ensuring efforts across the country have never been better resourced or coordinated. The Prime Minister rejected suggestions that higher climate targets would have prevented the extreme weather, but promised to review several prevention policies, including hazard reduction. At least 72 homes have been destroyed in the Cudlee Creek fire in the Adelaide Hills. Conditions eased yesterday, providing a slight respite for emergency crews. 300 firefighters remain on the ground, battling to establish containment lines. Smoke blanketed the city over the weekend, reducing the air quality rating to poor. Andrea Crothers has more.
More tragic scenes on the Adelaide Hills. The Cudlee Creek blaze burning through 25,000 hectares, destroying everything in its path.
Absolute devastation. Families in shock as they return to their homes, and all they find is rubble.
The damage toll rising, 72 homes lost, 227 vehicles destroyed, and 404 outbuildings like this one also gone.
The hard part is to know quite where to start, but I think really where you start is a bulldozer and a truck, and you clear it all out and you start with a blank canvas.
This experience will be absorbed into our community DNA, and we will rise from this more resilient and stronger.
The community also mourning the loss of Ron Self. His body found Saturday on his property near Charleston. The 69-year-old has been remembered as a generous and loving man with an incredible passion for life.
Going to leave a big hole in our lives. He was a special person, intelligent, smart.
59 people have been injured, around half of those firefighters. Authorities are warning the Cudlee Creek blaze could flare up again. Andrea Crothers, Sky News.